Welcome to the Human Design Ray Festival 2025.
This coming together is really, I guess, a precursor to an immersion that's going to take place, I think, the 10th through the 14th of September in Slovakia. And whether or not you can make it to this one, which the nice thing about this immersion is it's going to be over 5 days each day. And those 5 days, it's going to be 3 hours a day. And the gift in this is that for the projectors, the manifestors, and whatever reflectors can come, it's not a long time that you have to sit there and concentrate and be filled up with the sacral energy that's in the room. And you don't have to focus the whole time and pay attention. Not that you need to anyway, but the point is it's digestible. And then the other part is there are going to be other things that are going to be taking place that people can then go to or not. Because one of the most important things about an immersion is that it's a place to either help you sink deeper into the experiment you're already in, or for those who have never met it before, it's an actual chance to understand in a very deeply practical, real way, in person, to what this actually means to stop living out of the conditioning and to start something that could radically transform your life. And to be in the frequency with other people that's happening with. And so it's like a container that can hold you and hold your frequency and help tune it. And then the hours that are after you leave, when you're not in your hometown and you're going somewhere foreign and you're really there also on a little bit of a vacation, there's nothing that potentially is coming in from your normal world that's interfering with the beginning of your process. And that interference pattern can really make it hard for people to sink deep enough into their experiment to actually experience something that is really showing them like, oh my God, this is real. This is real. And so these immersions give the opportunity to get that taste, to get enough of that taste that you're not going to come back from it. It's going to give you something you're like, oh shit, I have to do this, regardless of how much the mind might kick and scream. So, between now and September, there are going to be other immersions by other people, and you'll find out if those people are for you, if I'm for you. And hopefully if you can attend, you'll discover what that is. And when I went to my first immersion with Mary Ann, I went to every single immersion except for 2 until she fully retired. And that wasn't something that came from my mind. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go to every one. Or that was like, oh, I'm going to study this. It was my sacral kept bringing me, kept bringing me, kept bringing me, kept bringing me, kept bringing me. And even though I would listen to her pretty much say the same thing for everyone, it wasn't about the information. It was about her frequency. And then it was about the frequencies of those in the same space and how that held. Because every time myself and when I've talked to others who have also gone to immersions and we share, we go out into regular life. And even though I'm there in my strategy and authority as best as possible, the forces come in, they come in and they pull and they chip, or you go through segments where many of us were completely alone. You are utterly alone, and going back to an immersion, it's like you get to take a shower from all of those little things that kind of slowly build up, or the fact that you're holding yourself while the rest of the world around you is in that chaotic frequency, right? The static field is intense. And so when you get to go into a space where all of a sudden there's this harmony that's unfolding, and how that feels is profound. And one of the things that I'd like to try here with all of you, just to let you know that, this experiment can begin at anywhere at any time. And unless somebody's a manifester, if somebody wants to say something, right, unless it's a technical issue for you, to try not to write unless I've asked a question or invited, and to watch those who have the impetus to want to say something, right, to want to write something, and to understand that that's an initiation, and these little things, this is one of the most important things when you get into immersion, is to discover what it is to not initiate, because it is the most pervasive, subtle, and very obvious learning process, is to actually realize how many places that we're still initiating, that we didn't really know it, or wouldn't have really categorized that. Well, because I need to do this, so how can I not do that? And one of the big ones, the most subtle ones, is just online. It's like, unless somebody's literally asking us a question, even in a generic Instagram or whatever post, and we write, it's initiating. Even the positive things that we write are initiating, and in the beginning, I suppose I should speak this from the beginning. For the beginning, the first 7 years of an experiment, I mean, that's really, the radicalness is needed, and I always like what Mary Ann said, it's not radical. It's, here's the experiment, right? It's waiting to, and then whatever your type is. And that waiting part, that's actually where everything happens. That's the trick right there. And so if you're not waiting to whatever, you're not in the experiment. So how can you know if it has any validity unless you actually adhere to that? And then, yes, maybe at a certain point you want to test it. So something's like, well, I'm going to initiate here. Or if it's a manifester, they're going to initiate something when they haven't had a push, and they're going to see how that goes. Does that make sense for everybody? And so in immersions, these are the things that we get to play with, right? We get to play with our auras, so that you don't believe that you're in this thing, right? You don't believe like, oh, okay, projectors' auras, they're this, they penetrate and they focus outwards. And it's like, well, okay, to be in a room with them, and to then do a dance between you and the generator, and even you if a manifester wants to participate, and a reflector if there's one present. And so I might offer language or explanations, or a description of what's going to take place, but really it takes place through whoever's there. And then we do this dance, and then we end up going through the centers, so that you don't have to believe that, oh, we're this 9-centered consciousness. Oh yes, I have a head center and blah 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 blah. It's okay, do you want to experience that? Like, do you want to feel what it's like? Because each one of these is a dimension. And so when you take these, and then you have 20 people in a room, and half of them have a center and the other half doesn't have the center, when you separate those centers, and you're still with 10 people, but you remove something absolutely, meaning that the person who has a defined center is no longer in aura contact with the person who has that center open, but each of those people are with 10 or whatever, 10 or more people or less of the same openness and the same definition. You get to experience that something is not present. And we don't get that in groups. Everything is mixed up all the time, right? And when you do it with a couple of people, yeah, you still get the experience. But when you have numbers, it just becomes more profound. It's just this, what? Oh my God. How is it that I truly feel something visceral in my body, and there's 50 of us, but there's 25 people there and there's 25 people here, and I can feel how that what they bring is not over here, but there's 25 of us. Okay, this is what is going on. So it's these types of things that you get to experience, so that your mind is just there going, what? And so it can move to the back, right? It can sit there and go, oh, I don't know what this is. And therefore it has a hard time trying to jump in and claim the life, you know. In an immersion too, it can be a place where a lot of people can go through a remembrance of parts of their life and have old memories release, you know, whether it's through their actual speaking of it as it leaves their body, or whether it comes out in tears. And you get to watch the mutative transformational aspect of this experiment just happening, and then everybody being in that container, and it empowers the space, you know, it empowers the process.